Better Baseball MLB DFS podcast here at Fantasy Alarm and the Better Sports Network. I am James Grande. I am back, period. Michael Jordan, all that good stuff. This is baseball. He did play baseball, so it's relevant. Everyone forgets Michael Jordan, elite baseball player at one time, maybe when he was in fifth grade. I am joined not by John Impemba, not by Howard Bender, not by Julio Franco, but Colby Conway at Colby R. Conway on the Twitter machine. Colby, happy Tuesday, brother. What's going on?
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here. Ready to talk a little MLB DFS action with you here. And it'll be you and me for most of the week ahead. So looking forward to starting things off on a high note for this dynamic duo here as I fill in for the incomparable John Impemba.
I mean, definitely. I mean, he just is like, he likes vanilla ice cream and he doesn't use any condiments, like very comparable to a lot of like children, but I digress. We move on to the 15-game main slate we have on tap for Tuesday, a slate that includes a lot of elite pitching. Obviously, every player in baseball that is not on the injured list is taking part, but Ohtani, Gausman, Ryan, Valdez, Gallen, Kershaw, Bradley, you name it, they're on the mound. It is a Coors Field slate as the Dodgers head into Coors to take on the Rockies there. So a lot to get into. So why don't we just hop into things, Colby, and take a look at Las Vegas and what we're just taking a look on, if we think anything's going to move, if we notice any over-unders that are huge to open, any money lines that we want to take a look at. What do we got?
Yeah, the over-under for the Pittsburgh-San Diego game is going to move. Padres are good against lefties. Rich Hill stinks at home. That line is bound to move. And it's crazy. Coming into the 2023 fantasy baseball season, Sandy Alcantara coming off a massive year. And now you look at it going up against the Red Sox of all teams, and they're not heavy favorites at all. What a fall from grace that it's been for him this year. I actually like a couple Boston bats because he's just been so bad we have to consider it. But first glance, those are the ones that stick out. Cincinnati as dogs on the money line is a bit interesting. I know Andrew Abbott's flirting with fire. He's really
yes.
It's been good, but we're teetering right now. It's close. So those are a couple ones that jump out up front, with the big one being if the line for San Diego Pittsburgh is going to stay at 8.5, even if it moves to 9 or even 9.5, there's going to be runs scored in this game, and it's mainly going to be from one side, and it's not the side that I'm ideally rooting for.
Yeah, especially San Diego bats waking up pretty much across the board. Their best player, Ha-Seong Kim, waking up. Like it's been a great ride for Pittsburgh. Just the proverbial 12.5 total in Coors, just to throw that out there. Some places 12, others 12.5. Connor Siebold taking the mound for the Colorado Rockies. We saw him get absolutely shellacked not too long ago. But that's really it. 9.5 in Cleveland, Kansas City. 9.5 in Miami, Boston, as you mentioned. Sandy Alcantara taking the mound there. That's really it. So why don't we get into things? We'll start at the pitcher position, and we will break down our top plays as a position. Colby, why don't you jump in first?
Yeah, I mean, right at the top, Ohtani is going to be pretty popular. Very good arm. Chicago stinks. They've been worse against lefties than, righties of late. But regardless, the better side of their splits is still pretty bad, if we're going to be honest. It's a lineup you can attack. Ohtani's very, very good. Splits are in his favor, so you got to like him. Also at the top, sometimes I love to fall victim to narratives, especially in DFS. And, like on Monday night, Luis Castillo at home. He's very good at home. Kevin Gausman, typically when he's at home, you kind of play him and you move on. His last two starts, I believe, have been on the road and they haven't been as good. But his last home start against Minnesota, which was a dream spot.
Yep.
Not good. And I understand you can't be perfect every time. So, I mean, what do you think? I mean, San Fran also, if you look at their numbers, they have not been striking out as much lately. And they went through a stretch where they struck out every other batter, nearly, is what it felt like. So can we trust Gausman at home against the Giants? Can we do it at this price?
I mean, here the thing about Kevin Gausman this year is there's been few pitchers that have had as consistent upside as him, seemingly from slate to slate. I mean, I talk about this with John almost every time we talk. Like, he has 5-6 games this year with double-digit strikeouts. Like, I don't know how many other arms can say that this year. Like, I don't even think Spencer Strider has as many double-digit strikeout games. I don't think there's as many guys in the league that have that much strikeout appeal. You mentioned they're not striking out as much. San Francisco still a 24% strikeout rate against righties on the year, which is still amongst the league lead. And I know obviously their roster has shifted. Guys have gotten healthy and they've been pretty good against right-handed pitching from pillar to post, really. I'm willing to take a shot on Gossman. And it's again, you look at the rest of this top tier, Joe Ryan, I know he's coming off, his best start of his career after really struggling and laboring through a bunch of starts in a row. He gets Atlanta in the summer. That's not fun. Framber has what's supposed to be a tough spot against St. Louis. St. Louis has had a long history against left-handed pitching. And I've talked about Framber and a lot where he's super consistent. He doesn't always offer you the Mets start ceiling, right? That is not often. He's just the quality start guy that gets you 7 innings, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts, clock in, clock out, nice 9 to 5. He's coming to work every day. He doesn't have a lot of vacation time. So I like Gossman pretty much after what was that? Why are you smiling? Vacation time. I mean, you're like the meme where it's vacation, your vacation time, Colby, and then you guys are shaking hands. That's you. Anyways, I digress. I'm with Gossman. I like Ohtani as well. I think he's my top arm. I think Gossman's number 2. Any of those guys I mentioned also on your radar, or anyone else above 9K on your radar at all?
Taj Bradley's interesting because the strikeouts there. And the thing with him, it's one of those things where do we put more weight into it? Are we putting more weight into how good he's been against lefties this year? Or we put more weight in how good Arizona's been against right-handers? There's that delicate balance. When I'm looking at it here with Taj Bradley on the year, I think lefties are only hitting 215-ish, 216 against him with a 252 WOBA. Righties are doing a little bit better. And when you think about that Arizona offense, probably 3 of the first 4 guys, or maybe 2 of the first 3 you think of, are both left-handed hitters. Yep. So if Bradley can stymie them, he's been pitching pretty well of late. I mean, maybe he's a guy that we can look at to go there. When you look at Arizona in June against righties, only thing is, here's another thing to put stock into: 5th lowest strikeout rate, and they do have a double-digit walk rate. So it's kind of, Bradley's going to have the upside. He can strike out anybody. It's kind of like Spencer Strider. Even if he faces Washington, who doesn't strike out, you still have to consider Spencer Strider. I think at this point, this price is pretty good with Bradley. I just don't know where I'm putting my chips on. Is it Arizona's dominance against lefties or Taj Bradley's dominance against left-handed hitters?
I think my worry with Bradley is what you mentioned, and he can strike anyone out, even teams who don't strike out. That's very apparent. But the pitch count has been kind of limited upon his return back to the majors. We've only seen him hit 90 pitches once. And if Arizona's working counts and we see the 3 to 4 walk Taj Bradley like he was against Oakland, Texas, Boston, are we even getting 5 innings here out of Taj Bradley? And at 9,400, that's where I would run into a little concern. For $200 less, I would go to Bryce Elder in a spot who had a guy who has not had much pitch limitations or pitch count limitations. And I don't think he has nearly as much upside as Taj Bradley does. Bradley had 10 strikeouts in the first 11 batters he faced against Oakland, and the wheels kind of fell off and the walks started piling up. But Elder has looked really good in back-to-back starts against Colorado and Philly. And, one of those offenses is unlike the other, obviously, but he does nothing but keep the ball on the ground. Nobody hits the ball in the air against Bryce Elder. And Minnesota, when you talk about strike, this is a spot that we could see Elder flash strikeout upside. He's had 8 strikeouts in a game. He's had a bunch of 6 strikeout games. Minnesota leads baseball in strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. And yes, they have power, but 9,200 for Elder is a very safe price. He's had 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 starts, excluding the blow up against everyone's worst nightmare, Washington, which again, I don't know why people target Washington with pitchers, but that's their fault. But I like Elder here, 9,200 more than Bradley. Like I like Bradley's ceiling more, but I'm just worried about the spot because, like you said, Arizona does not really have any deficiencies against right-handed pitching.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then the other two that are kind of intriguing. Where is that San Diego right-hander?
There he is.
There he is. All right. Pittsburgh's offense has been anemic over here in the month of June against righties. I mean, they're not striking out a ton. They're in the lower third in the league in terms of strikeout rate, but they couldn't hit water if they were stuck in the ocean right now.
Yeah,
they are struggling. But then you look at Darvish, and he's allowed like 73 earned runs in his last 3 starts. So and his splits, he's better at home than on the road.
Yep.
And now he's going to Pittsburgh. He's in a great spot for a win. San Diego's going to win this game. They're going to pummel Rich Hill, which we'll talk about in a bit. Boy, I don't know if I can trust Darvish in cash, but I think if you want to get a little creative in a GPP, Darvish, I mean, this could be that Darvish outing where he comes out 6 2/3 shutout innings with 8 or 9 strikeouts against this Pittsburgh team. It very well could happen.
The Cubs start. If the Cubs start, it could look identical to something like of this degree. And I completely agree, Colby. Like this is the first place I went to in the mid tier. Not because I think Darvish has pitched well, because he hasn't really at all this year. He has a handful of good starts and a lot of bad starts for a guy that's being paid a lot of money and has been a guy as highly as regarded as Darvish has. And sometimes people run their course. I still think there's stuff in there. The strikeouts have been decent lately, 5 or more in 4 straight starts. And you mentioned your Pirates have not been the same team this month, unfortunately. So I think Darvish is going to be pretty popular, and I agree on the tournament front. I don't think I can get there in cash, but tournaments I have. I mean, look, he has a 36-point ceiling, right? We have a 44-point discrepancy between ceiling and floor. So that is what you call GPP special right there. So I agree. What else we got at pitcher? Any good value? I think there's some pretty interesting value on today's slate.
Yeah, you just talked about not attacking Washington, but Brian Wu.
Oh, yeah. I know we
he's
both
better
have
than
written
his
down
numbers.
too.
He's better than his numbers have indicated. I wrote about it in the Streaks and Trends articles at Fantasy Alarm. He is better than what he's been led on. Just take that first start out of the equation.
Right.
That's the pitcher he is. And the strikeouts are there. I know Washington strike out a lot. Something has to give, and Wu is filthy. So he's in a really good spot. And then I'll kind of let you talk about both of them. But I don't know. I just keep coming back to if he's going to get the start, Gavin Williams against Kansas City. Just because Kansas City's not been good against righties. I mean, yeah, Williams' debut is what it is. But, I mean, we all know the kind of upside that he has. So Williams and Wu are kind of the value guys I kind of see.
W. That was like win W.
I guess I should have said the wow you plays. That would have been really cool for alliteration, but it's not as cool when you have to just cut it in post and then come through that. The wow you plays.
Yeah, nice. I like that. That's you're gonna be a great dad with all these dad jokes. Oh God.
I'm a
one day, Colby. One day. It works. Yeah. I agree on both. Wu is in it. Look, Washington doesn't strike out. But like we just talked about it with Strider and Taj Bradley. Like some people just miss bats, and that's just what their nature is. The Gavin Williams thing, it was Oakland, and that's obviously disappointing. But Kansas City has been really bad against right-handed pitching from the start of the year on. They haven't, obviously, things are not improving, losing Vinny Pasquantino. On the year, Kansas City 28th in OPS. 147 team ISO right near the bottom. Their WOBA is 293, tied for 27th. Like nothing suggests Kansas City's offense is good. And then the cherry on top, the 24.5% K rate. We know Gavin Williams has filthy stuff. We know he's going to miss bats at the major league level. It's okay. He's allowed to have a bad start in his debut. 5,900 is a stupid price. You pair him and we could just do this quick. You pair him with Ohtani, you have a very comfortable $4,100 left for the rest of your roster. So maybe something to come when we get to the lineup construction portion of this. But let's dive into the infield. Unless you got any other value plays, Colby, I'll actually just give Ranger Suarez a shout. He has pitched extremely well after getting to a pretty rocky start. And he's still priced like he's pitching poorly, but he's allowed 3 earned runs in his last 4 starts overall. Um, and the Cubs strike out a lot, and Ranger Suarez surprisingly has been missing a lot of bats. Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Braves. Ranger Suarez has mowed them all down. Just gonna throw that out there that we're talking about Ranger Suarez of 2 years ago now. Like this was the guy they had 2 years ago when he first became a starter, not last year's version. So I'll give some love to Ranger Suarez. Anyone else for you, Colby? Are you ready to move on to the infield?
I can't get Ranger Suarez right ever, so I'm just not going to say anything with him. But I will say he's in a great spot for a win because Philly is going to pummel Jameson Taillon in this one.
Yeah, shout out to Jameson Taillon and the Scott Fishbowl player, Jameson Taillon, but
Former Pittsburgh great.
Former Yankee great as well.
I have his jersey in the closet.
I don't have a jersey. I don't have a jersey anywhere. Let's move on to the infield. Let's talk about your top infield plays for Tuesday slate.
Yeah, looking at the infield, I love the San Diego right-handed bats. We already talked about it a little bit. Manny Machado and even Xander Bogaerts, they've both been very good against lefties, especially of late, like in the month of June. Both of them are hitting very well. And then if you're going to pay up, I love Jose Ramirez in this slate. He is hitting the ball well. He's seeing a beach ball at the dish. He'll be on the best side of his splits, and that is enough for me. So if I'm paying up and if we have the money, those are guys I'm looking at, and I'll talk about Ramirez a little bit later too.
Yeah, Jose Ramirez is when he's hot, he is hot. I completely agree. I saw him on the sheet, so I just backtracked. I was like, oh, look, Colby's gonna take that thunder because I'm gonna actually just talk about more Guardians. Maybe a theme of today's show. Not all the way spend up, but right on the border of mid-tier value. Josh Naylor and Andres Gimenez. I really like the Guardians in this spot. And it's not a lot of times we get to talk about the Guardians, but they're going up against Brady Singer. Coming off 5 earned his last start. Brady Singer, 6.34 ERA on the year. Just not the same guy. I know the ground balls were great his last start against Detroit, but he has largely been bad. And Josh Naylor has been insanely underrated. 57 RBIs on the year. I bet you nobody realizes that Josh Naylor's in the top 5 of RBIs on the year unless you're really dialed into what's going on around baseball. Josh Naylor would not be at the top of the list of guys that are driving in elite run production, having elite run production numbers this year. He's been really good lately, 3-18 over his last 10. And again, gets Singer here. So I really like Naylor back up 291 average, and Jimenez still under 4K. He's coming around, power, 2 triples in his last 10 games. We're starting to see a little bit of the reason they gave him $100 million in the offseason, with the power and the speed. So I like both Guardians to pair with Jose Ramirez. Freddie Freeman in cores, obviously, against Connor Siebold. Corey Seager is if Shohei Ohtani didn't exist, would probably be the clubhouse leader for AL MVP right now. And I did mention Ha-Seong Kim is not having too bad of a stretch right now, Colby. But really, 353 his last 10 games. We're homering during the pandemic, I did the KBO coverage, and Ha-Seong Kim was the talk of the town, coming over from the KBO. This guy was a 30-30 player in the KBO. Obviously, not the same competition, but he faced Chris Flexen, dude. Come on. We knew Ha-Seong Kim was gonna make it in Major League Baseball. And now the fruits to that labor, 3 home runs in his last 4 games, and he's going to lead off. They've been leading him off against left-handed pitching of late, and you mentioned the Rich Hill factor here. I love Ha-Seong Kim, all formats at $4,300.
I think a mini infield stack that's kind of intriguing when looking at the slate. Former New York great Jordan Montgomery has not been good at home this year.
Yep.
Excuse me, and he's got some issues against right-handers, and I'm looking here. In the month of June, against a left-handed pitcher, Jeremy Pena hitting 529, Jose Abreu hitting 389. Those 2 guys are seeing the ball well against lefties. I have no clue what this lineup is going to do or what this team is going to do ever, just given their state of affairs. But these 2 guys, pretty relatively well priced. Jose Abreu is finally coming around after he's been dropped from 72.7% of fantasy baseball leagues, it feels like. But in the month of June against lefties, you're hard pressed to find some better production. Pena may not have homered, and Abreu only has one, but the average plays, and they're at least hitting a couple extra base hits here and there. So Abreu and Pena could be an interesting mini stack if you want to target Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, I agree. And Abreu, you can get Abreu at a nice 3,200, and all the home run, all the power coming back from Jose Abreu. Too good to be that bad for too long. Any I got a couple. We'll move on to value. I just have a couple. I didn't love the value infield. I like the value outfield a lot more. Tony Kemp has been on one lately. I don't mind him. And the Dodgers recalled Michael Busch. He was one of their top prospects. He has not been great at the major league level, but nothing like a good Coors Field bump to get your bat going. What do you got here in the value tier, Colby? I see a couple guys you got listed.
Yeah, I already talked about the two Houston guys. I like Justin Turner. Any pretty much left-handed bat for Boston plus Justin Turner, I think, is fine against Sandy of the Marlins. Bryson Stott, lefty bats for Phillies are going to be just fine against Tyon and the Cubs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yep.
So that one's going to be good there. And then another one, too, when researching the slate for Monday, Jordan Westburg, young guy. He's going to be very minimum price. And if I don't have the tab open because I closed it, but if I remember correctly, no, he hit righties better. Yeah, I think he hit righties better than Myers, but he's coming up from pretty big AAA production, and he's going to come up. And if they're going to keep him, as long as he's going to be this cheap, you have to consider him at any price, especially if you're going to try to get funky with two pretty high priced pitchers. He's going to be a free square for a little bit here for us.
Hit seventh on Monday, a walk and a run scored in his first professional at bat. So
he's already like 2x.
Already paid off the price and more. And that was his first at bat. So more to come for the rest of the night. Colby, what do we got for the outfield? You and I have the same top outfielder. You have talked about the same team. You're wearing their colors on today's show, despite them facing off against your hometown team. But Fernando Tatis has to top the list for this.
Right-handed bats against Rich Hill at PNC. That's what we're going to go with. So Tatis is going to be a slam dunk play. His ownership is going to be incredibly high. Any San Diego stack's going to have him. Even if you don't stack the Padres, he's the one-off bat you're going to take. So, yeah, Tatis is in a really good spot. Anytime a lefty faces Baltimore, Anthony Santander is a threat to go downtown. So you got to always consider him. I actually kind of like some value options in the outfield. Like some of the top price guys, I'm just paying up for Tatis. I mean, if you want to go Mookie Betts and Coors, I'm fine with it. Like any bat in that game, you're probably okay with, especially from the Dodger side, because Connor Seabold is very bad. So you could go there. But top price guys, Fernando Tatis is way, way, way above everybody else.
Agreed. And I love Santander against lefties. Another monster year. I don't know what else to say. And you mentioned you could play any of the Dodgers. JD Martinez had that monster stretch where it seemed like he homered every day, and it was against a right-handed pitcher every day, and that's what they have here in Seabold. Seabold actually worse against the righty split, so that could be an interesting play. There is a lot of really good value, I think, in the outfield today. Austin Hayes, if you want to continue on with your Baltimore stack, leading off again against a lefty, he has been amazing. Joey Weimer has mashed lefties this year. Milwaukee faces off against Southpaw. How about some Matt Vierling? Detroit has had some weird, decent players of late. Like Kerry Carpenter has come from the woodworks. Andy Ibanez had like a really good stretch of 2 weeks. But Matt Vierling, over the last 10 games, 1,200 OPS, 3 home runs. Gets a righty-lefty against Martin Perez, who has not been the same guy last year. So I'll go Vierling. And I like the Dodgers outfield, Peralta, Hayward, whichever one you want to play. I think Hayward has a little better splits against righties this year with the power. What do you got for value tier here, Colby?
Yep, Alex Verdugo, very good against righties of late. He's in a very good matchup there. And then don't overlook any Philly stack with Brandon Marsh hitting 351 over his last 39 plate appearances, including he's got like 4 multi-hit efforts in like the past week or so. I mean, last 10 games are good right there. 2 hits, 2 hits, 3 hits, 2 hits. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Marsh, I'm surprised he's 3,100 with how bad Jameson Town has been, 1 at home and 2 against left-handed bats. And that's something that's kind of plagued him for most of his career, the lefty side. So I love Philadelphia left-handed bats tonight. And I think Marsh, not only is he a great value, but the point per production that we could see from him could be very, very profitable.
Yeah, Tyon against lefties, man. It's been a brutal site. Let's get into. I like the little name here we got because it's usually Grande's Gems and Impemba's Imprints, but we don't have John. We don't have that vanilla loving, uh, no condiment eating son of a gun. We have Colby here, so we got Grande's Gems and Conway's Cornerstones. I should have said corner store. That sounds like something you should open up as well. Conway's Corner Store.
That
In
involves
con
working though.
Yeah, that involves true. You more vacation days and working days, that's for sure. So Colby, why don't you run through some of your cornerstones, starting with the home run call?
Yep, home run call. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. Jose Ramirez, great spot for him. If you're a BVP truther out there, I used to be. I faded off a little bit from it, but he's 7 for 16 with 2 home runs in his career against Brady Singer. So have to love that top stack. Out, obviously, Dodgers love them at Coors,
Right.
but I've said it enough. I've trashed these colors right here. I got to say it again, but the Padres, led by those right-handed bats against
Yep.
Rich Hill. That's the stack that you want to know. Contrarian stack, I've kind of said it a bit. I really like yours, so I didn't want to copy you, but Red Sox and Phillies, I don't know how contrarian they actually end up are, but they're not one of the big two, so that's going to make them contrarian. Star of the night, I robbed from you, Fernando Tatis Jr. He may go yard twice. It's just
Maybe. Yep.
simply, it's that simple. And the value play of the night is Mr. Multi-hit effort over the past week. Multi-hit effort after multi-hit effort. It's Brandon Marsh.
Love it. Even though he's still my star of the night. So obviously, tee that up that he is my star of the night. He's also my home run call. Top stack is the Dodgers in Coors Field. Contrarian stack. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Guardians. I am a believer tonight. I don't like the name, but I am a believer of the team, at least on Tuesday. And I'm going to stay with the Dodgers theme. Jason Hayward, he's had us a 200 plus ISO against right-handed pitching this year. So shout out to the J. Hey, kid. Cole, we have a couple of minutes left, so let's just cruise through a lineup. I would say we were both on the Ohtani front. What do you want to do? Do you want to go Darvish or do you want to go all the way down to Williams or Woo?
Let's start with Darvish. It's easier to take money away
Okay.
than try to find ways to add it in.
I agree. What do we got? We didn't talk a single catcher, because that's usually how things go with catcher in general. Is there anything that stands out specifically? I mean, let's do this because we're gonna play Tatis. He's probably the first player we're gonna plug. I sorry. Hey, we're playing our boy Kim. Any what do we got for value plays? We're gonna have to we can go Jose Abreu.
Go Marsh, Abreu, maybe even Jeremy Pena.
Marsh, Abreu, 3,200. Let's go to I think Pena's 4,100. That's okay. Now we're cooked. Catcher. Let's just punt catcher, right? I mean, we're gonna have some punt outfielders. Who is our favorite punt catcher of the day? I mean, Yan Gomes gets a lefty. That's always one of my favorite things.
Matt Thaiss isn't bad against righties for the Angels.
He sure is. Did I pass Tice? I don't think
know.
I did.
I don't even know what his price is.
He's here.
There he is.
3,700. Oh, we need something cheap. You know what? What do we got? We got third base, catcher, outfield. How expensive is Joey Weimer? Are you cool with Joey Weimer against a lefty? 2,600. Yeah. David Peterson's been kind of.
Yep.
Third base. Do you want to go with a?
Well, we can't get Ramirez.
Let's try this. Yeah, we're gonna work on getting Ramirez here. 5,900. Ramirez.
Yep, so Ramirez.
And then we have a $3,400 catcher. Yanier?
Yep. Let's just go Houston stack.
That'll do it, guys. For those listening on the podcast, Shohei Ohtani, Gavin Williams, Yanier Diaz, Jose Abreu, Ha-Seong Kim, Jose Ramirez, Jeremy Pena, Fernando Tatis, Brandon Marsh, and Joey Weimer. $100 left over. That'll do it for the podcast. Colby and I will be back at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your MLB DFS live stream here in the Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm.